Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It is Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan for another Inside the Birds. We're deep here in the offseason, and today is the day for a lot of people, Adam. Today, Friday, the public, the Eagle fan, the diehard will finally get to hear from its new head coach. Nick Sirianni will do a press conference at noon. He will cover a lot of subjects. Now, apparently, he's already talked with Dave Spadaro of the Philadelphia Eagles, so there'll be some of that on the Eagles website.
It's up there. Yeah, you can see it. Yeah.
Right.
Spoke to Dave
but there's
about
going to be
it.
a lot of questions asked this time.
Dave said it's like 25 plus minutes, so I look forward to watching that before Nick speaks. But, yeah, it's funny because people are up in arms. How could you wait a week? Robert Saleh waited a week to do his press conference. The Jets head coach. We talked about this earlier in the week that I wouldn't expect it till late in the week because he's got to hire staff. He's close to being done, by the way, as we speak. Friday morning here, he's only got 3 or 4 more coaches to add, and we're going to get into some stuff we also learned since our Wednesday morning show on that. But you're right. They're going to finally hear from him, and I look forward to it. We'll get into that in a minute about what we might hear from him and what the press conference will be like and what the differences might be between he and Doug Peterson.
Definitely. I think that there will probably be more than people suspect. So I look forward to hearing what he has to say about that. We will get into the coaching staff additions. Obviously, there have been a few since our last podcast, and we'll get into a couple of other things we've learned since our last podcast as well. But I do want to focus in, Adam, on this press conference because it's obviously the first time we're going to hear from Nick Sirianni. And so I'm wondering from you, what's the number one thing you want to find out from Nick Sirianni in this press conference?
All right. I mean, it's like, and I don't know how they'll ask it. Maybe it'll be Jeff McClain with his blunt question.
Hey, those are
okay. Who's your
type.
Quarterback? Something like that. Jeff can get just have poking fun, Jeff. But I like Jeff. Something like that. Look, you have to ask if I'm in it. The first question I'm asking, if it hasn't been asked, is all right. You've got 2 quarterbacks in the National Football League. What they say when you've got 2 quarterbacks, you don't have one. Mm-hmm. So who's your quarterback? What is your thought process in terms of the quarterbacks? And I'd like to hear not only that. In this press conference, what the follow-ups are going to be. Is the response that he has to that question good enough? And then you know how it is in this market. If they're not satisfied, when the media here brings it, when they don't miss is what I say. So every once in a while they completely don't ask the right questions. But if they're bringing their A game, they show they have. What else have they had to do lately? So.
Look, right? It's a great question. It's a fair question. I do think, though, some of that answer is out of his hands because he's not the number one personnel guy.
I get it, but I just want to hear, right, but I just want to hear, because he's new to this market, how does he respond? Is he defensive? Is he willing to be introspective? Is he willing to I don't expect to get the 100% truth, even if he knows where it's going to go, that position. Obviously, he's not going to give that out. But I like to get some information for him to bring this forward a little bit.
Yeah. So that's almost like a cheat question, right? You wanted to ask about Carson, of course. If we were to take no, absolutely. So if you take the Carson out of it, for me, what I'm really looking forward to hearing is his philosophies on where the game is headed and how he plans to build a program around those philosophies. We all know that Andy Reid and you should check out our interview with Joe Banner that we just did recently, all of our listeners, because I thought we took a nice different kind of approach to the interview where we didn't just talk about Nick Sirianni, but the actual head coaching search process, what that's like, what kind of traps there are that teams can fall into.
Oh,
I mean,
man.
Joe was really candid about it, and I thought it was really good. So you should check it out.
What was that? What was that response that he had? It was unbelievable. I don't know if you asked it or I asked it, but the thing about this particular interview with Banner was different. His responses were not what I expected in 2 or 3 of them. Mm-hmm. One was one of the most amazing responses.
I thought it was interesting that he said he knew he could rule. There was one candidate that they interviewed that they were really high on based on their their pre-interview vetting, and then he said they knew within 10 minutes that he wasn't the right guy.
How about that one? But the one where he said, you don't want someone who just wins the interview. How did he say it?
What he said exactly, I believe, was you're always nervous about hiring the person who wins the interview versus the person who's the great coach.
There you go.
Or the great interview versus the great coach. Right. And that's true. There's a lot of people who are good salesmen, but they can't get the job done. So you want to avoid that.
Well, it's no different than for the draft, where the agent will prep the player for the pre-draft visit. Mm-hmm. or the combine interview, by the way.
Sure.
And because they only get 12 to 15, whatever it is, 15 minutes with the player in that room, they're coached so well. Sometimes the teams will tell me they can't learn anything because I think the guy's been coached up so well. Whereas in this one, and Joe will explain how long these interviews are, at some point you're going to get so deep in the weeds, you're going to know, like you should know, get a feeling over a series of hours. Okay, who is this guy? And that's kind of where Joe went. And it was really interesting.
Right. So, Andy Reid, as Joe told us, kind of really, blew their mind about where the game was going and how he was going to build a team around it and his confidence that he would be able to do it. Joe talked about. That's what I want to know from Nick Sirianni, because I have to assume he got this job over qualified guys. When I say qualified, I mean proven guys like a Josh McDaniels or a guy like Deuce who's in your house and you've seen every single day. I have to think that there were things that Nick Sirianni discussed that both Howie and Jeffrey were really enthralled with to name him the head coach over their very vast list of coaches, many of them who had a pretty decent amount of experience, Todd Bowles being another one. So I'd love to be able to tap into his mindset, Adam, about where's the game going? What kind of coach is he philosophically? Who are his influences? I don't want to just assume that Frank Reich's the only guy that has some kind of input into what kind of coach he is. And I want the nuts and bolts on that.
Yeah, that one I love too. That's kind of like if you and I were doing it in ITB TV with him, boy, I'd like to spend 20 minutes on his influences. Like I love asking personnel people or coaches. In fact, you know what? When I talked to him, I met him at training camp twice, Sirianni, in 18 and 19. And I actually asked him that question. I don't remember. I didn't take notes because I don't take.
You're just spitballing at the time, right? Yeah.
I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly. I want them to feel relaxed. I just wanted to get to know them because, you hear about them. And you're funny you asked that because that's exactly what I asked him in one of the years that I talked to him. I know he talked about the guy who coached him at Mount Union, whatever the head coach's name was.
Yeah, I can't remember, but I know he's won a lot of titles.
Yeah, he definitely was talking about that influence and in terms of scheme, in terms of philosophy. And we're going to get into it. We got a little bit more notes on offensive scheme because there's so much information out there that's not correct.
All right, good. We'll get into that.
We tapped into. I want to go a little bit deeper because I knew in 16 and 17. Well, actually 16 what the offense would look like, and it was exactly what I was told it would look like. Part of that was based on the personnel that they had, but I do believe Zach Ertz will not be an Eagle in 21 at some point, just because of this contractual situation. It's just an opinion, but something that we've all felt. It's not breaking news here. We've all known that it's just not going to work. So if you don't have Ertz where you're married to 12 personnel, what will the team look like? That's important to know. I'd like to know that what kind of the philosophy is, and the information I just got the last couple of days is a little bit different than it's out there, so we'll get into that.
Oh, good. You saying that makes me realize that while I have enjoyed this head coaching search that I never thought was going to be happening, and doing the legwork to it, it's been fun. For us, it'll be cool to kind of get back into the actual player situations, the Eagles on the field, instead of just, this coach might be coming in, that coach.
Yeah. Oh, God. Yeah.
It'll be good. It'll be good to get into that. But there's one other thing I want to get into with Nick Sirianni and this press conference. What I'm really looking forward to is not even the words sometimes, but the reaction, right? I mean, how many times have we watched a press conference in Philadelphia, an introductory press conference, where you came away and you were like, ooh, and listen, Doug is an example, and people were wrong. We were wrong about that. But we've also, and I'm not just talking about the Eagles, right? You've seen press conferences here where it's just the tough questions seem to not sit well with the guy or wherever it is, and it made you a little squeamish about things, right? I mean,
right. Okay, so what you just said, let's say one of the reporters asked him a really tough question that's like, wow, you're asking this now? And he reacts just like you said. His reaction's like kind of negative.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is because, look, you saw Jeffrey Lurie's press conference, right? His press conference on 2 weeks ago, he got skewered by the fans and the media. And we took, we were pretty critical of him.
Yeah.
That to me, listen, if Sirianni does not, I hate to say this matters, but it does. The first impressions do matter. If he doesn't win the press conference, I'd be shocked. The 2 times that I spoke to the guy, just how personable he was.
Right.
I understand this is a different media market. I get all that, but man, if he doesn't win the press conference, that would be disappointing.
You make a good point. I remember Doug's introductory press conference, which obviously didn't win a lot of people over, but Doug was just Doug. Like, that was his nature when he answered I believe the first question he asked, his first word that came out of his mouth was "gosh." If I really think I think he went, "Oh gosh," I think the question was, when did you know that you were on the Eagles roster, on their radar? And he goes, "Oh gosh," and you're thinking, "Oh my God!" In Philly, this guy just said "gosh" as his first word, but that's Doug. Like, right. That's how Doug is. Sirianni is known as a really outgoing, charismatic guy. Like, gosh ain't going to be coming out of his mouth. It shouldn't be coming out of his mouth. So I agree. It'll be interesting to see how he reacts, knowing he's a pretty, gregarious type of guy. So look forward to seeing that.
Yeah, he's similar to Peterson in that he's got a ton of energy and passion.
Mm-hmm.
But he's a little bit more in your face, a little bit more hard of an edge. According to a couple guys I've talked to this week who've worked with him in the past, whether it was with the Chargers or the Colts. So that's good. Look, they need this here. They need someone who's more, just a little bit tougher. Now, it doesn't mean he's going to be tough enough. We don't know that. We won't know that for months or years, possibly. We'll learn. But I just thought it was important to kind of review this as you guys are listening at 6 a.m. And we appreciate all the kind words this week. Just blown away by, really humbled by some of the comments. And we feel like an obligation to y'all. Give you as much information as we can. And I got a beautiful note in the mail. A guy and his son, I guess, listen, the guy's mad at me for cursing. I'm sorry. He goes, you guys got it going on. And I wish you would curb I said potty mouth, but okay. But I get it. I'll try. But no, he just said, like, he clearly sees how passionate we are and he appreciates it. And he cannot wait to wake up. And the guys on the East Coast, he cannot wake up at 5:30 or 5:45 to hear us at 6 a.m. And we got it, man. Thank you. So anyway.
Yeah, that's cool. I've also been, real quick, I've been amazed by the overseas people who have reached out from different countries.
Germany guy. We saw a guy from Germany. Yeah,
we got someone from, I think, Thailand, or somewhere in
Asia. Leo, if you're out there, I know he's on our board. He's asked us questions before. Chime in if you want on the message board. Let us know where you're at. And we'll give you a shout out. How about the guy on our live stream for our pregame show? It was drinking beers. Where was he from? And he saw me drinking it.
I remember. I think it's from Scotland.
Island. Well, I'm sorry.
Scotland, is it?
I could. Yes. I could see his Twitter account.
I think it's like Gary from Scotland.
Yes. Good call. Good job. Yes.
Well, it's probably like Scotland, Ohio or something.
Right. Well, it's funny because in Ohio, there's a Philadelphia, Ohio.
Oh, yeah. I'm aware of that.
You always have to be careful with these cities because, wait, do you mean Westchester, Pennsylvania? Westchester, New York? You got to, but yeah, it's good stuff. So we appreciate it. Anyway.
Yeah, definitely. All right, let's get into some of the things we've learned about Nick Sirianni. I know you wanted to have some additional thoughts.
Oh, yeah. So,
offense.
Yeah, we know, as Geoff was saying, it's like, okay, we've heard enough of the coaching stuff already about who's going to be in their staff, on Sirianni's staff, but let's get into what the offense will look like.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more we learn about that, the more we'll understand where free agency and the draft's going, because that's kind of what's next. We'll hit the Senior Bowl stuff next week. But, I know that Reich prefers sort of, I got to be careful how I say this. Because, I talked to a couple of the guys who helped me out with the coaching stuff last week. Last Friday we outlined 4 of the coaches who are going to come in and 3 of them are already on staff. So I just wanted to get an idea of kind of what the offense will look like. And one of the guys said, listen, be careful thinking Nick's going to run a lot of 12. He goes, that's not really the way he thinks. He's big on give me whatever you give me. That's what I'm going to use. But I'm a big matchup guy. See, in 17, the Eagles, their offense was super matchup oriented. It wasn't just 12 versus 11 or 13 personnel, though the Eagles did not barely use 13 last season. It was more about, okay, this is who we have on offense. This is who we're going against. This is what we're going to run. If they got slow corners, now I've used this example on our show. They went after Aqib Talib when he was on Denver because they thought they could destroy him. They thought he couldn't run, and they crushed him. That was Denver. I remember talking to someone with the Eagles then, and they said the game plan that week was bullseye. Whatever number he had on his jersey, that's who they're going after. I had heard from a pretty good coaching source, Sirianni is going to be matchup based. Now, I have no idea who the Eagles are playing except for obviously against the three teams in their division. So we'll learn more about that, but do not think they're going to be married to 12 personnel because that would not be correct according to this coaching source. So let's look at what the Colts did last season in their person. They had 1,032 snaps, 11 personnel. Now this surprised me. This surprised me. I would have thought 55 to 57% of 11 personnel. Nope. They were at 68% 11 personnel. Now, let's look at sort of the things, what happened. Paris Campbell, their second round pick in 2019. Was it second round? I think.
Yeah, second round.
The Eagles liked a lot, by the way.
Definitely.
He missed, again, most of the season, but Zach Pascal replaced him.
Right.
Okay, so they went with Michael Pittman Jr., who they loved, and obviously T.Y. Hilton. But the one thing they did a lot of, and I didn't know this, because you really would have to study this stuff, they were fifth most in 13 personnel, which is 3 tight ends. They had about nearly 6 snaps per game. That's a lot, by the way, with three tight ends. There were 4 teams in the NFL, Geoff, that did not run 13 personnel last season.
Well, I wonder, Adam, because sometimes when you throw an extra offensive lineman on the field and you call him tackle eligible, that's 13 personnel. So we know the Colts like to run. We know they have the amazing offensive line. And there was a time in the middle of the year that Taylor was struggling a little bit and their run offense was struggling. Mac hurt. I wonder if that was the majority of the 13 personnel that they played was really an extra offensive tackle.
Actually, they only ran 6 offensive linemen 2% of the time, which is bottom half. Okay. So what this guy said, he goes, yes, if you go look at the Chargers because of whoever they had, it goes, it was dependent on the game where they went more 12 than 11. He goes, I wouldn't marry Nick to, because he goes, this is not what our discussions were like. He goes, he was just saying whatever they out in the media is not correct. Because it may seem, because the guy went over the tight ends, had Mo Alley Cox, who's just a blocker, Jack Doyle, who's earlier in his career is a better pass catcher, but because of all the injuries, he's more of a blocker. And Trey Burton, of course. He came in this past season, he was their move guy. He goes, but no, he goes, this guy said with the Colts, he's like, look, we went with, we thought that we could get better matchups with 11, depending on obviously the personnel, depending on who we had. He goes, listen, you know that Michael missed time, right? I said, oh yeah, he missed compartment syndrome. That's a bad leg injury. Actually, surgery. Oh yeah. He goes, we would have been more 11 if we had Pittman for those 4 or 5 games. I was like, okay, good stuff.
Yeah, that was good to know.
It was not what I thought. That's why you got to talk to people. I was wrong about what I said last week, that he might be more Well, here's what happened. It was partially, I thought, because of those guys being on the field. He goes, certain situations we did, if we thought we need to get more power going, like if they had a light defensive line, they might have gone with more 12. He goes, and it's definitely true. Most of the league is more 11 than 12. He goes, it's way more 11 around the National Football League. It's rare for even though the Eagles were number 1 in the National Football League with 12 personnel, it was only 33.2% of the time.
Right. Well, I mean, I think the Eagles, Adam, could trade Zach Ertz and still play a decent amount of 12 personnel depending on the corresponding move. For example, you trade Zach Ertz, Dallas Goedert, your number 1 tight end. let's say you want to play 25% of 12 personnel. Well, Richard Rodgers showed you last year he can block a little bit when he's healthy, and he can catch. I mean, he was one of Carson Wentz's only reliable receivers last year.
He had a couple huge games. He had one game for like 4 for 80.
Yeah, it's the Giants. It was unbelievable.
Right. Like, where the hell's this coming from?
I don't know.
I remember you telling me, you were texting me. You're like, are you watching this? I'm like, yeah, I don't, what the hell? I do remember at Cal, he was a pretty accomplished guy, and then he went through a series of injuries, and he just became a blocking tight end.
Yeah, but I mean, if you look at his Green Bay, when he's healthy, he had decent receiving yards there. So, and of course, you can draft. I mean, if you're trading Ertz and you're trading Wentz, or you're getting, I mean, you're going to pick up a few draft picks here along the way, I imagine. So you'll have the opportunity to get yourself a nice groomable tight end in the 3rd, 4th round or something like that. So I don't, and I don't want to even count out the fact that they put a lot of resources over this past year in bringing in guys like Hakeem Floyd and Jason Kroom. Like, it looks like they were trying to bring in.
Yeah,
Hakeem Butler.
Yeah.
Who's Hakeem Floyd? Is he?
No, Malcolm Floyd. You think Malcolm Floyd?
I thought there was a Hakeem Floyd, but I don't know. Yeah, thank you. Hakeem Butler and Jason Kroom. Those guys were re-signed, I believe, to futures contracts, right?
Correct. Yeah, and the thing is with the Eagles tight end situation, what I like them to do, if they're going to trade Ertz, which is again, it's just an opinion. I just don't see how it's attainable going forward. I fully expect him to be traded, barring something unforeseen. If it happens like I think it's going to happen, that tight end that they draft, and they will draft a tight end, I hope they can get it out more in pass routes.
Yeah.
We know he's a terrific blocker, one of the best blocking tight ends when he's asked to do it. He was actually, by the way, really good from the start blocking. As one Eagles coach told me, very nosy in the beginning. He just stuck his helmet in there and he'd block. But the guy is so dominant, like Gronk. He could be baby Gronk. Boy, does he move? Greg Cosell told me 2 years ago, he goes, I don't know if you've seen this kid. He goes, he's way more athletic than Ertz. I'm like, okay. Mm-hmm. He would know. No, he's watching tape.
He definitely makes yards after the contact. He's got that explosive element to his game. He just has to stay healthy, which is basically the story of every single Eagle that we talk about. But yeah, he's got to stay healthy. But he can be, in my impression, a top 5, top 6 tight end, and certainly good enough for when you want to run 11 or 12 personnel to be your top tight end.
Oh, yeah. And he'll play, exactly. He'll play 85, 90% of the snaps if he's healthy. So why did I bring this up? Just don't assume that they're going to be a lot of 12, because Peterson was married to that because of Ertz and Goddard. He had to do it. That's got to stop going forward. They got to have more versatility to their offensive scheme plan. So that's that on there.
And plus, to add to that, you remember that video where you heard him say that one of his philosophies is he likes to get the ball in the hands of playmakers within 5 to 10 yards of scrimmage. I think he actually said guys who have speed, right? Well, you've got Jalen Reagor, you've got Hightower, you got Quez Watkins. So it gives them a good reason, if these guys can develop, to play as much 11 personnel as possible.
Exactly. Yeah, I'll never forget. Either you texted me or you said it on our post-game show. You said, what the hell is with their slot screens? They don't even work. Like, I guess they did them. They were so bad with Reagor, like they just didn't work. And we can never, was it the line? Was it Reagor? Was it the play? Was it a bad formation? Who the hell knows? Mm-hmm. But, in that 5-minute video, it's on you could just it's on YouTube. The problem is there was one reporter in our market who was acting like he was reporting that that's what they're going to do. I'm like, no, that's not what they're going to do. It's just that he gave you a little bit of insight the way that he thinks, but doesn't mean he's definitely going to do that. You got to be careful just thinking like, okay, well, he said it in this video, that's what they're going to do. That's just part of what he might be able to do. It doesn't mean he's going to do it.
Yeah. No, hey, and again, maybe we'll get a little bit more insight on what he wants to do in his presser. Although I don't know how forthcoming he's going to be with that kind of
I understand. But in that video though, like you said, at least he said it, that he does like to get guys the ball in space in a short area. That would play so well in Reagor, who's so explosive with the ball in his hands. And if you watch his punt returns, which I hope he gets to do again, he looks like a running back. If you look at his TCU tape from 19, the reason why he was so dynamic as a punt return, the nation's best, is his vision in a short area, then to take it long. And that, to me, is the one thing I got out of that 5-minute video that if he doesn't do this, I'd be very surprised. But other than that, no one has any idea what he's going to do.
No doubt about it. All right, we'll talk a little bit about the coaches who are coming in and some who might not be with the team. First, of course, check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all of the Philadelphia pro sports teams like nobody else. For the fan, fight by the fan. That's their motto. Make sure you're checking them out. Also, look for them on Twitter at PHL Sports Nation, and go to the website, phlsportsnation.com. We'll pause real quick for another word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. All right, Adam, let's talk now about the coaching staff. Still some fine-tuning here. As we record this, still not no senior offensive assistant. We talked about that on the last pod. You wonder if they'll bring in somebody who's been an offensive coordinator or a head coach or something like that.
Exactly. Yeah, I still think I was told pretty reliably that he's looking at it, and it could be someone he's worked for or worked with. I still think it would be a wise idea with such a young staff. When I say young, Steichen's 35, Patullo's like around 40-ish. Sirianni 39.
No, I think Patullo's because Sirianni at 39 was the oldest of the three, so I think Patullo's a little younger. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, is he younger than Sirianni?
I'm fairly certain. Yeah.
Really? Okay. Steichen's young. Brian Johnson, we'll get in him a second, is only 33. I mean, that is like, where's your experience, man? Where's the? I don't know. I like what Kevin Stefanski did. He brought in Kevin Rogers out of semi-retirement.
Sure.
He wanted someone who's been in the league a long time that he could lean on as his sort of mentor. I just think, I think that was a smart thing for Peterson to hire Reich, although they share the same agent. Maybe that had something to do with it, but who cares? That was a smart move. Right. That would be a smart move with such a young staff.
By the way, Patullo 39, so I thought he was a little bit younger than that, but 39. He'll be 40 in July.
Okay.
So we'll have to see. I mean, look, there's time to bring in that kind of guy. Of course
exactly.
Staff, but really, you're trying to get your position coaches
Stefanski hired Kevin Rogers like months after he was hired. He just it's a great point you made. It's not like any of these guys are going to be such high demand, especially guys not even working right now. Sure.
Right. And you also hired a defensive coordinator who has been a defensive coordinator in the league before and has been in coaching for 20, 25 years. So Stefanski's?
Oh, yeah. Well, Rogers. Yeah, Rogers is. Oh, yeah, forever. Yeah.
Wait, is Rogers the defensive coordinator?
No.
No, I'm saying that Stefanski. What's his?
Joe Woods.
Browns? Joe Woods has been a defensive coordinator before.
Yes, he has. Yes.
He brought in veterans on both offense and defense.
Correct, which is smart. And it's a good point you make, because if you look at Jonathan Gannon, 37 years old, it would be this is stuff until you brought this up, I was not even thinking of throw on defense. That would be smart. Joe Woods was the D coordinator for the Broncos. See, the problem with Joe Woods there, not that we're talking Niners, but I'll just give an example sometimes of scheme. He had to run their scheme that he took over and just didn't work. It wasn't fair to him. Gannon here, as we move this forward, Gannon is a 43 front guy. That's what they're going to run with Gannon. He's not going to run the same philosophy of not blitzing much. Although, by the way, the Colts were 31st in blitz percentage, but that's because of Eberflus. And
I was going to say that's their style. Yeah,
right. That's Eberflus. That's not Gannon. So don't, as I said in the other show, as someone who's worked with Gannon before told me last week, he said, "Listen, dude, don't think that John's going to just do what he goes. He loves Matt. He's going to take some from Matt, some from Zimmer, and a couple other coaches that he grew up in the game with, and he'll be more aggressive. He's not going to blitz like 50%. That's not what I meant.
Right.
The other, it was more along the lines of, guys, the days of Jim Schwartz and lack of pre-snap disguise, which would drive people crazy, that's done. Like, you're not going to, there are very few teams that don't do pre-snap defensive disguise. It's just very rare. That is, by the way, the reason for lack of turnovers. Take that to the bank.
By the way, I think that if the Eagles had hired Todd Bowles, it probably wouldn't have gotten the greatest reception at first, but it was sometime in the middle of the season, I think fans would have really loved it, because that guy likes to unleash the hounds. And
he's done it. Oh my God. The last 2 weeks, now I know they struggled, the Bucs, in the second half. Oh my God. They destroyed Drew Brees, and they did a great, I know Rodgers' numbers were good, but he didn't have a go-off game. So you make a great point, man. Because I know growing up here, Geoff, this is a defensive town. I get it.
Oh God, yeah.
You know that, but the millennials, they want offense. Come on.
I know. But this town, man, loves defense. I don't blame them, but
Buddy
all
Ryan,
the stars.
The late Buddy Ryan never won a playoff game, but yet they love him anyway.
Buddy's a hero, exactly. Let's get to the new additions. Quarterbacks coach Brian Johnson, University of Florida, offensive coordinator and quarterbacks coach. Look, he's got an interesting story, if only just for the quarterbacks that he's worked with, and the fact that he sort of has this relationship with Jalen Hurts that goes back to growing up in the same area and knowing his dad and playing for his dad and everything like that. But I just think him in general, Adam, that aside, he's pretty interesting. I mean, he's the guy who took over for Alex Smith at Utah after Smith got drafted. He was successful there. Yeah.
That's the only reason why I knew about him is because in 2008 they were undefeated. And I remember doing a little bit of scouting him for that draft. I thought for sure he'd be drafted.
Right.
I don't think I didn't look it up, but it just my mind going back to 2008 because they were undefeated. I don't believe he was drafted. And then when the news broke this week, I checked into his background. I want to get some opinions, and he's super smart. He's 33 years old, but he's really smart.
Mm-hmm.
But that's great. Can he coach hard at this level? Even if they trade Wentz and it's Hurts or it's somebody else, we've outlined this now for 3 years. You got to coach hard. You can't be close to players. It's not the way it works at quarterback. You could have a great working relationship, but you can't be close to players at the quarterback position. If you are, sometimes you're afraid to coach them hard, and that's what happened here in years past.
I have to admit that is a big concern. I like his resume. I like all the quarterbacks that he's worked with from University of Houston, where Kyle Allen, who's now in the NFL with Washington, De'Ara King, who's now at Miami after transferring, and then he went, Dak Prescott at Mississippi State, and Kyle Trask.
Great.
Kyle Trask has played well at Florida, so there's no doubt he has coached some quarterbacks who performed well at college, and then some who are in the NFL. But he's 33. Carson Wentz is what now? He's like 29, 28?
Yep.
28. So that's pretty close there. And he's not used to coaching. He has no experience, as we know, coaching an NFL quarterback in general. And now he's got to coach a guy potentially coming off, the worst year of his career, we know it can be stubborn and hard-headed. That's a concern for me. And look, it's not like I don't hold it against Brian Johnson. He is who he is, but you would have liked to know. You would have liked to seen them bring in like a kind of a kick-ass DiFilippo type of guy, who can get to Carson's head.
Yeah, look, he's got a great resume. There's no doubt he's highly qualified for this job. As a matter of fact, I didn't even look him up as a coordinator in terms of play calling, but his resume is so strong. And I know Petula is going to have the passing game coordinator tag, and Steichen's the OC.
Right.
We'll see. Look, he's a college coach, so I'll see what kind of concepts if he could help in that area. This is a hell of a get for them. I got to tell you, I don't know how they found him. I don't know whose idea it was, whether it was Roseman, the GMs, or Sirianni, or anyone else on their staff. Because by the way, on Doug Peterson's staff, some of their coaches recommend, like Mike Rowe was found by one of their offensive coaches to be the receivers coach at 17. That was a home run in terms of receivers coach, of course.
Right.
And some of the other coaches recommend some other guys, so that, hey, it doesn't matter how you got there. Just make sure he's the right coach. But that it's just going to come down to how hard can he coach? Can he get guys to buy in? And that's that.
Yeah, it may be a case where, and I'm sure this isn't lost on Nick Sirianni, where, like you mentioned, Nick himself or a guy like Shane, or even Steichen, I'm sorry, or even Kevin Petullo may have to be a little bit more active on the field, drilling, working on fundamentals. Like, that's obviously Brian Johnson's job, and he's got to do that too. But because of his youth, you may just have to need a little extra helping hand there. Because as you have said many times, and you're totally right about it, this thing is a rebuild if Carson Wentz is here. You've got to rebuild him from the ground up. Yep. There's going to be a lot of technical instruction that has to go on, and I just don't know how receptive Carson will be to a 33-year-old guy who's never coached in the NFL before. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember Ron Jaworski telling me that when Sid Gilman took over, and Greg Cosell actually told this great story about it, but Jaws said, because he and I were talking when we were doing his radio show for The Fanatic, like when Carson was really struggling, I guess it was in November. So when Sid Gilman took over as whatever term, I don't know if he was the OC, might have been senior offensive assistant. He went back in training camp, and he started at the beginning. He started with Jaws' feet. Like he was back in high school. It was like really amazing to me.
Yeah.
And Jaws is not entitled. He's like, hey, let's go. I want to be coach. Great. Make me. And by the way, Jaws was, I have to look it up. If he wasn't the MVP, he certainly had a great year. It was an 80 or whatever it was, 80, the Super Bowl year. So that's, you do whatever you got to do to coach people. And I'm really fascinated by this Brian Johnson. It's a hell of a hire on the surface. The job that he did with Dak Prescott, that was his best. I mean, of all the quarterbacks he's developed in college, I mean, Dak was obviously, you could say that was his prize. Did a great job with him. So I'm looking forward. This is again, I got to find out how they found this guy. It's a pretty good one.
Yeah, no doubt about it. As we know right now, running back's job is still open, running back's coach. So at the time of us recording, they don't have one. Really not sure. I don't know if you've heard anything, what kind of direction they're going in.
No, but just one thing on Johnson before we get back to running backs. It's not like people didn't know about him. He's at a big time school. I'm just talking about who brought it to them and why did they hire him over other. There were plenty of other guys they could have hired. Why him over other people? I think it's always interesting how they get some of these coaches sometimes, because sometimes these guys have interest from other teams and they choose the Eagles or they choose another team because of this reason. So anyway, running backs. No, I've not heard. What do you think of Deuce Staley's open letter to the fans? I thought that was really
nice. It was nice. It was nice because if he didn't do it, it felt, and I don't know what the real story is, but it felt like he left on bad terms, right? It felt like cold shoulder. You never heard a statement about him. And I'm glad he did that, because even if he is feeling some kind of, bitterness inside, I think that was good to just at least address the fans and be classy. He was great.
And I expect nothing less from him. One of the classiest players we've had. And by the way, any sport growing up here, you could go by each team, Geoff, but he's right up there of your fans' favorite players. It's just, we all love players that are real here. That's just the way it is in this market. It's just, even if a guy stumbles, as long as you're real and you take responsibility. I'm not saying do stumble in anything. I'm just saying in general, when players have had issues here, if you're straight with the fans, they love you. And Deuce never had any issues with anything, and they love him. It's just that he didn't get the head coaching job, and he's now on a rival team.
Right.
And that was a beautifully written statement about talk about the way you do a statement. My God, it was phenomenal.
Yeah, that was really nice. I think you could tell he wrote it. It wasn't like somebody wrote it for him. He wrote it. And I really how he pointed out his connection to the nickname Deuce, the way he wrote it. That's cool, because it just meant it really meant something to him. It wasn't just
and the shout outs to Big Dom. Because you didn't see, as I'm reading this thing, okay, great, really nice. And then he gives the two ladies who are on the personnel staff, which was awesome shout out. And then Big Dom, he's a security director who's about as good as, and he said he wanted to take him with him. He could. How about that?
I know.
Are you serious?
Listen, man. You and I know this, right? Big Dom runs that place, man.
Yeah. He said, I think he said that in a statement, right?
Did it? Yeah, he probably did.
So.
Big Dom runs that place, man. It wouldn't surprise me if he's the GM someday.
Anyway, hilarious.
All right. So, by the way, real quick on Brian Johnson, I think I get, people are jumping to conclusions, but I do understand why they are based on what we said about his youth, like why people would think that this is a sign that Jalen Hurts is going to be the starter next year, and it's not a good situation for Carson Wentz. I don't personally believe that, but I understand why you would make that connection.
It's fair game because of the Hurts back, because was his dad, did Hurts' dad coach him in high school?
I think that's what it was. That is
okay. Yeah. All right. Look, if this had anything to do with it, why he's there, that's fine. But the bottom line is it better be about him being a great coach. If it is, that's all that matters to me.
Agreed.
That's, I understand why you might be skeptical on it, but it was interesting when it came out, and I'm like, wait, is it Brian Johnson from Utah? Yep, the guy was from Utah. Yeah, wow, he's had quite the college coaching career. Anyway,
sure has. All right, wide receivers coach Adam. As it's kind of weird. This has been one that we've talked about for a little bit. I reported last podcast, the one before that I knew that Moorhead and Sirianni had talked, and that they felt that it was a good, at least from Aaron's side, I was told he felt it was a good conversation. but there was never any official, it's, you know, to my knowledge, that you're the guy, it's yours, it's definitely going to be you. It felt like that was the conversation, like an interview, and we'll see. So I'm a little surprised that hasn't been filled. I don't know if you have any more information. Yeah, as far as we know, yeah.
Right. I have similar information on your reporting. I'd heard the same, that it looks like it's trending toward him. But I'd heard, late in the week that he may talk to one more person. We'll see if that happens. But I do know this. They worked together in 2018. Moorhead, before he went to Vanderbilt, was a coaching intern. So they got to know each other. Yeah, Nick's first year with the Colts. So maybe that's how they know each other. Look, I'll tell you what, if you go through their depth chart, the last man standing might be Geoff, because we're fully expecting Jeffrey and Jackson to be off the roster, barring a shock. It wouldn't be a surprise. It would be a shock if they're with the team in 21. So then you got Reagor, Ward, although I think Ward's been a good story. They need more explosiveness out of the slot. If Reagor's not their Z and they move him to the slot, hey, fine. Then you need two outside receivers. Fulgham cannot be dependent on in any way, shape, or form based on his regression. We'll get more than him when we do a roster review soon. We're going to start doing a roster review. Watkins is not dependable. He's got some explosiveness. Obviously, he can run. And Hightower got benched. So
I don't see this. You think JJ is going to be on the team?
He doesn't even register. I mean, I didn't even talk about him. Yeah.
That's what. Oh, I thought you were trying to make a case for JJ.
No. I don't even. He's on the roster now, but I would be very surprised if he's on the roster come September.
I agree.
So you know what? This whole receiver corps has got to be rebuilt, right?
It either has to be rebuilt or it's got to be developed well, because
that too.
There's no reason that Jalen Reagor shouldn't be a very good wide receiver. There's no reason after what we saw in 4 games from Travis Fulgham that they can't get back into him and get his mind right and get his work habits right, because the talent is clearly there. You don't do what he did by accident, right? So the talent is there. So there's no reason that
he's
Reagor,
gifted, man. Yeah,
right?
gifted.
No reason that Reagor, no reason that Fulgham, and no reason for Hightower not to develop and become better, more reliable player. Listen, not everyone's going to be perfect. I'm not saying they're all going to be 1,000-yard receivers, but those are 3 guys who should be competent receivers. Watkins is a guy who actually flashed pretty well in the limited opportunities that he got. So that's another one. That's 4.
But they're all backups, though. See, here's the thing, though. Watkins is a backup. Hightower's a backup. Ward's a slot, and they need to upgrade. Fulgham would be their X, but he could never carry over, Geoff, those 4 games.
Well, I agree with you. I think your top 3 receivers should be, if things go well, it should be obviously Reagor, Fulgham, Ward, right? And then you've got those other guys we mentioned who can be backups who may be able to get in there. But there's no reason why you can't also draft a wide receiver at some point as well and bring another one in, because you're going to be saying goodbye to Deshaun. Right. Yeah, you're going to be saying goodbye to Alshon and Deshaun. So you got to bring somebody in. Right. I don't know if they'll sign anybody because they didn't last year and they don't have that much money, but you can definitely draft.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. They need what they need, as you explained to me, is they need an alpha, a big time veteran alpha who's a leader, kind of like a Jarvis Landry. Someone who could lead that room. It doesn't have to be a guy. It doesn't need to be the guy's going to lead them in receptions. It's just someone who's done it before,
right?
A veteran who's a good influence on the younger players. And
you don't think Greg Ward doesn't fit that bill?
He's quiet. I was told he's quiet. Okay. He's a great kid, great leader, smart, unbelievable story. But he's not the guy who would be that guy, that alpha guy.
I got you.
So we'll see.
Right. What else do we have? The tight ends coach was hired, Jason Michael. I think we talked about him on the last.
Yeah, that was the guy who told me about Michael last Friday said that he expected that to happen. That Michael, the former Titans OC, though he's fired there as the OC, he expected Michael to leave the Colts. He just said that Sirianni's got a good relationship with him, and he wasn't even sure if Michael would be returning anyway if Sirianni didn't get the head coaching job. With Philly, because think about it, he took the same job in Philly that he had with the Colts. Like, that doesn't make it. Why would you leave? It's rare for a coach that's under contract to leave for the same job elsewhere. It just rarely. It happens, but it rarely happens unless they asked out of the contract. So.
Right. Oh, before we go on, I think you mentioned this too, and I feel like I've heard the same, that they're not going to have as big of a coaching staff. They had assistants at every position last year. They had an assistant tight ends coach, assistant running backs coach, assistant wide receivers coach. I don't think some of those guys who have that assistant label or position coach label are going to be back.
Like anyone you've heard that you've heard?
Well, there's Matt Harper was, I think, the assistant wide receivers coach. And then who was the assistant running backs coach? That was TJ Pagnetti, I think.
Okay. Well, I know Harper was assistant special team assistant receivers. Yeah.
So, and then
so he's back, or no, you said he's not back?
No, I'm sensing that these guys are not going to be back, at least not in the roles of assistant something coach.
Got it.
I don't
think
they're going to be having them.
Yeah. So I had heard pretty reliably that Sirianni is going to mostly do away with these assistant position coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And if he keeps any of them, as you were hinting, some of them might be reassigned.
Right.
But he doesn't. Most teams don't do it. By the way, it was Peterson's decision to give these guys a chance. Got some of the chip holdovers, like the Pagnetti brothers, Matt Harper, maybe one or two others, but that I've heard he's mostly going to do away with.
Yeah, so it sounds like it'll be a little bit of a condensed staff there, or smaller staff.
Yep.
All right. Now's a good time to remind all of our Pigskin fans that the moment you've been waiting for all season is right around the corner. And DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of Super Bowl 55, is bringing back their golden ticket giveaway with up to $55 million in prizes up for grabs. You hear that, Adam?
Wow.
$55 million.
$55K. Wow.
No, not K. M. Million, buddy.
Million. Oh, I think it said 1,000. I'm so duh.
No. All you got to do.
Go back. Wait, read that again.
All right. It's their golden ticket giveaway with up to $55 million in prizes up for grabs.
Holy smokes. Wait, are we eligible?
I wish. All you have to do is get your share of these huge prizes, or to get your share of huge prizes, is enter DraftKings free Super Bowl prediction challenge. Once you submit your picks, you get a free instant prize up to $25,000. And if you have the most predictions correct, you could win the top prize of $1 million. So download the app now, enter the free prediction challenge, answer questions like who'll score last, and boom, get ready to make it rain. DraftKings has paid out over $7 billion. That's the B, Adam, billion. $7 billion to its players since 2012, so they know a thing or two about big paydays. Download the DraftKings app now and use promo code ITB to enter the free $55 million Super Bowl prediction challenge. Everyone gets an instant prize up to $25,000 just for playing. So use promo code ITB now and enter the free $55 million Super Bowl challenge only at DraftKings, the official daily fantasy partner of Super Bowl 55. Terms, conditions, and eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com for details. Woo, that's a lot of money. I could use that money.
Yeah, we all
could. Yeah. So getting back to the Eagles staff, it seems like the defensive staff, you said last pod that you're pretty sure it's done deal with Rocker. So he's going to be
That's done, yeah. In fact, Nick Eason is going to replace him at Auburn. Nick Eason is a former D lineman for many years, and then he became a coach with the Bronco. He's been with like 3 or 4 teams. Oh yeah, Rocker's done. I'll get to him in a second. Just to finish on offense. So what's open now is running backs, special teams. Mike Clay, who was with Chip here in Philly, joined Chip in the Niners. Right. According to the Athletic, he's interviewing for the Eagles special teams job. So we'll see what happens there. Okay. Dave Phipps in Detroit. Rocker is a guy who's an in-your-face, high-energy guy, talented coach for the Titans with Gannon. That's why he's here. I was told they're pretty close, and that's why Gannon brought him in here. Long time college defensive line coach. He's been everywhere. Now, Matt Burke is sort of in abeyance here. He's still hanging on there. He's still trying to figure out. He's under contract. Is he going to be the linebackers coach, or is he moving on? I'll be interested to see if Sirianni later today says anything about him.
Yeah, it will be interesting. So Rocker, you're describing as a high energy guy. Is he like a kneecap eating type of guy? Like how did Dan Campbell get it?
Like Dan Campbell. I don't know. But I just talked to guys who know him, who are in, know the college game well. Right. And look, the funny thing is I remember as a college player with that great name, Rocker.
Tracy Rocker. Yeah, now, how fast How fast will freezing cold takes on Twitter? You know that account, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They nailed me once years ago. Good.
Oh, I'm sure. Me too. How fast will they be tweeting something about eating kneecaps when the Lions lose 37-0 in Dan Campbell's debut?
Yeah. Well, look, I wish him well. I've always been a fan from afar, but
I am too. I kid.
I'm not real. I don't know. I'm skeptical with some of the coaching hires they've had on that staff, and I'll leave it at that. Not Deuce though. He's awesome, but
right.
I don't know. I love Aaron Glenn though. So those are the two that I really like. But some on that staff, I scratch my head because I talk to other coaches around the league, and they give me a lot of intel on guys they've worked with, and these guys are truth tellers, man. They're rarely wrong on guys they've worked with because they know if they're full of it or they're really good at their job or they're fake. These, because you talk to coaches all the time. If the guy's not real, they'll tell you. So we'll see. Good luck to the Lions. But so linebackers is open.
Right.
Marquand Manuel is still under contract. So is Tim Houck. So we'll see there. Oh, I'm told that they've already filled the offensive quality control. It's a college coach, a guy no one would ever hear of. I forgot the name. I didn't recognize it. But they filled that. Not that it really matters. These guys. This was actually Press Taylor's job when he was the assistant quarterbacks coach. He in 16, 17, he didn't really do anything with the quarterbacks. He just was he was a researcher, really. It's an important job in terms of research, but in terms of developing the quarterback, that's not their job.
Right.
So defensive quality control is open. So that's it. So linebackers of the position coaches, we've got running backs, right? Linebackers, anything else?
No, well,
receivers has to be official.
Yeah. Oh wait, we got the tight ends coach. Here's one thing I wonder about now that we're going through. You mentioned what Doug liked. It was one of the Pagnettis, I think Ryan Pagnetti, who was always Doug's the voice in his ear for analytics, in-game analytics. Like, are you going to go for two here, or are you going to keep your, I wonder if Nick Sirianni is going to have his own guy, or if he's. I just wonder where that's probably a really good question that we'll probably get.
Boy, I love that, man. I might show up to this press conference. That's a great question.
Yeah.
That's important. It's important to Jeffrey Lurie, as you know, with analytics and game day. He's going to, the way it works is Doug, I was told a couple years ago, would always get quizzed. And I'm sure they did it this season, but I don't know with COVID. I don't know how they did it, because he would get that sheet. Okay, why did you do this? Why didn't you do that kind of thing? So Ryan Pagnetti. In fact, Doug used to give him shout-outs, remember?
Yeah.
Although there's
when Doug wanted to pass the buck on a fourth down conversion.
Remember, he nailed him. He there was one that they screwed up, and he goes, "Well, Ryan Pagnetti said." I'm like, "Oh, poor guy."
Yeah, but I do wonder how much that Nick Sirianni will have, if he'll have a similar guy like that.
Sure.
I don't even know if Frank Reich had that kind of a guy in Indianapolis.
I'd have to ask. It's a great question.
Yeah.
Don't know, but that's it with the personnel. The coaching staff. Good stuff in the show today, man. We
definitely. Hey, before we get out of here, I want to ask you one thing, because it relates to this coaching staff. In our conversation with Joe Banner, he made a really good point. This is why I urge everybody to go listen to it. I asked him about the importance of continuity in the coaching staff, because as we look now, right, David Culley getting a job there for the coach of the Houston Texans, which is great for Dave. He's a great guy. I know. Have you met Dave? Awesome.
Yeah,
guy.
yeah. I've been around him. I don't know him personally, but he's like, you're going to get such buy-in. The Texans fans, he's a little older. He's 66, turned 66 in September, but good guy. Yeah.
But he just becomes yet another branch of the Andy Reid tree. So, it's Harbaugh, it's McDermott, it's now Culley. It was Doug for a while. Who else am I missing? There's probably like two or three more.
Well, over the years, it was Childress.
Childress got a job, and he people knock on him, but he went to an NFC Championship game.
Brett Favre
lost in New Orleans. Yeah. I'm trying to think who else has come from the tree that I'm missing there. Oh, Spagnuolo is done. Stevie Spag. So the bottom line is, it's been a very fruitful tree. Ron Rivera, great one, right?
Boy, New England's tree is like a willow.
That thing is it's a weeping willow.
Sorry, man.
That's really funny. Yeah. I was thinking like the Charlie Brown Christmas tree that only has like one branch.
Exactly. At least I didn't curse in the show. All right, I'm trying not to.
Yeah, but didn't you feel like what Joe said was fairly interesting? That he said, he didn't put as much stock into continuity because you don't want to have the same people on your staff if they're not competent. It should be competence first and continuity second, which is, of course, a little obvious, but that's why I think that you put a microscope on this first staff for Nick Sirianni.
Because here's why. What Joe told me in Cleveland is that he didn't want a bunch of yes men. He wanted a lot of guys who would challenge each other. Because the problem is when you get there, when they're all friends, they're unwilling to do it. He goes, his experience, and this obviously would go back to Gruden and Ray Rhodes and Rich Kotite. He noticed that a lot of these guys knew each other and they were unwilling to challenge each other. And he thought it was really better in his experience when guys didn't know each other. It basically it would challenge you to ask questions instead of just, hey, I know this guy, so I'm probably not going to jump on him, which is the exact opposite of what you might think. He noticed in his experience that when guys didn't know each other, it forced them to ask questions and to get to know, because you didn't know these guys personally because you didn't know what they know or didn't know.
Right.
So
we'll
see.
All right. Just wanted to leave it on that. Very interesting. All right, that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles Intel. Big thanks, of course, to our producer, Hunter Brody. Check out his work on YouTube. It's called Sports Talk with Broads, and, of course, his Twitter account, @Broads81. We'll be back again on today is Friday, so on Monday. So we'll recap Nick Sirianni's press conference and probably have some more information.
The staff should be hired. Yeah, he's interviewing more Friday, so I'd be very surprised by Monday or Tuesday if the whole staff isn't hired. And then
Senior Bowl, and then we can do some Senior Bowl stuff, right?
Yeah, I was just gonna say I want to get into Senior Bowl for sure. And then the next 2 weeks, we're going to start the offseason program we have of roster review, stay or go based on what we hear. It's not guesses, it's not just our feeling. It's what we're hearing about what's probably going to happen once they reach free agency, and then we'll start getting early intel of discussions. We already heard some stuff, so we'll get into kind of where this roster might go.
Awesome. I look forward to that, getting back to that kind of stuff. All right. As always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.